Okay, so good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'll just remind, my name is Kate Dowley. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator here with the town. I am transitioning for our Board of Elections group here. Mary is our Town Administrator, Mary Boland. She has been leading the way on this group, but we're still transitioning it over to me, so she will be going over some election rules with us, policies and whatnot, as one of our agenda items. But as you can see, there's not too much on our agenda. We just wanted to get the group together to, of course, one of the main things is to review and certify the candidates met our filing deadline to this point, as well as just go over some election day training and review. So just to get right to it, I suppose. The first agenda item is the approval of the meeting minutes from Tuesday, July 9th, which was our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the meeting minutes.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Alrighty, so the next agenda item is the candidate review, filing review. At our last meeting, we did have Jack Orris file, which was reviewed. So for tonight, we do have the filing review for Zach Tyndall running for re-election of office of the mayor. And we have two candidates who have filed to run for the council seat of District 3. We do have Shanika Nichols, who's currently serving in that role, and Mr. Daniel Packey, who is a new file. So last time we did this, we passed the information around to the group for review, and we did just initial, per your approval, we did initial the top right corner of the packets. So given that we do have 3 members present currently, I will give each one a packet to each of you, and then we can just perhaps go in around the table if that's okay for review. Is that okay for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Just initial, I think we had them initial at the top or bottom.
Yeah, the top right
Yeah.
corner, please. So that's for you.
And you're basically just reviewing it for completeness. Kind of, that's it, really, just to make sure that all the information that needs to be filled out has been filled out. We would, of course, verify through town records their status as a registered voter, their address is appropriate to the district that they're filing for, that sort of thing, so. Excuse me.
This letter has the date of August 12th. This has August.
The letter is the date that the person came
Okay.
in and
Do you want to fill
requested
it in,
their.
or does it matter?
It's, as long as we have acknowledged receipt of it by the deadline, that's the key.
Okay. Oh, and it's sworn to me 12 days.
Yeah.
I would like to note too, for the packets that you are currently reviewing, there is a fairly lengthy portion of that packet that is the financial disclosure, which you'll see, I think you're actually on it
I am.
currently.
Mm-hmm.
For our 2 incumbents that have filed for re-election, they have, that portion of the packet has been reviewed by the Ethics Commission and approved by the Ethics Commission. The only one that has not yet been reviewed, but is in process of being reviewed, is Mr. Packey's.
So we don't need to.
No, and as to the financial disclosure in particular, you are addressing that they did file it, but you are not addressing whether the contents were correct or that kind of thing. It's just was that box ticked that they filed the appropriate form? The Ethics Commission has the review of the contents.
But that is why you see initials in the corner of the packet, because
They did.
that they had done that,
Right,
yeah.
right. Excuse me.
Yes, please.
Mayor, I suppose this is more of a question for me, but for a candidate, should a candidate file by write-in, would this process that we're doing apply to them
Yes,
as well?
that's
why we need that
That's all,
meeting?
right,
Okay.
exactly. That's why that meeting is scheduled, to go over last minute stuff as well.
Okay.
But yes, that's a part of that.
Okay.
Mayor Tindall's does not have the ethics commission.
It was already reviewed by
Okay.
them, yeah. Or it's in their hands, yeah.
At the time that the Ethics Commission reviewed his packet, they did have a question concerning a section of the packet. It has since been corrected and resubmitted to them for review. It is currently underway.
I pick up on all sorts of
Good thing.
weird
Well,
stuff.
why we do it. Yeah. As you can see, it's a fairly lengthy, the disclosure anyway, is a fairly lengthy packet. So in terms of the filing packet in its entirety, that is most of the information.
All three of us.
So just to quickly move on to agenda item 3, attached in, or included, I should say, in your meeting packet on the back page is the election schedule that has already been put out there. We did review at our last meeting. The top portion is grayed out simply because those dates have passed. So the not grayed portions are the dates upcoming. I really just included that to see if any of you have any questions or particularly conflicts with our next meeting. I would like to keep it as you see on the schedule. Unfortunately, we do have 2 members that are not present this evening, so hopefully we can have a full group at that time, but I do propose that we meet as has already been publicized, which is Tuesday, the 24th of this month at 5:30. Does that date and time work for at least the 3 members that are here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
That particular meeting, the timing of it is kind of important because it's the write-in candidate filing deadline. And then that's the point at which a lot of things start to happen very fast to get ready for the next Tuesday on staff's end. So, yeah, if you become aware of a conflict and we need to look at rescheduling that, we need to know as soon as possible.
So I suppose the next agenda item, I'll turn it over to Mary to go over the election day training and review, but I would like to say attached to your council packet. Today we did receive from the Worcester County Board of Elections our precinct register.
Actually, before we move into that, I'm going to go over one other thing regarding, we still refer to it on here as absentee, but actually by this, the correct term, which we will address in the code following the election, just a matter of timing, is mail-in voting. What happens there is that the applicant, a voter who cannot be at the poll on election day submits an application to be a mail-in voter. We review the application, verify their status as a registered voter, that they have identified themselves in the correct district, and that kind of thing. Once all of that is done and we've certified that they are eligible, we send them the mail-in ballot. The reason that we don't bring the board back together to review those is because we would be here every night. So that makes sense for staff to be designated to do that. At any time, those forms are available for your review if you should choose to. But because we could get one every day or one once a week and not for another 10 days, it's impractical to try to bring the board together to review those mail-in applications and have them certified in that way. That's why staff is kind of designated as the agent of the board in doing that. Just an explanation of that. So as Kate was saying, I'm sorry I kind of cut you off.
Thank you. Just what is attached to your packet. We did receive the final precinct register as well as the voter activity registration, which I kind of created a little example of it as to what one would look like. But this information was submitted to us today, so we will be moving forward with getting the VAT cards printed and of course ready for election day, which I know Mary's going to go over the process of.
So this is essentially what you'll see on election day, is a notebook. This is from the last election, notebook with the voter roll in it. Voters are listed alphabetically. The districts for a particular polling place are commingled, but they're alphabetical. So in other words, this particular book is for districts 3 and 4. So this will be at the St. Paul polling place, because obviously we did have 2 candidates file. That polling place will be open that day. So the entire voter roll is in this packet. It'll pretty much look like exactly what you see here. The voter comes in, says, I'm John Smith, and I'm here to vote. So you would go through the voter roll, find their name. This box will contain the VAC cards. And this is what an actual VAT card looks like. It's on cardstock, but this is the shape, size, and Kate has sort of reproduced it here. So these will be in here in alphabetical, indexed alphabetically. Again, districts 1 and 2 are commingled, districts 3 and 4 are commingled, but they're not all 4 districts commingled. So the voter comes in, I'm here to vote, you find their name in the voter roll. You find their VAT card, compare the information, make sure it matches, hand the VAT card to the voter and ask them to verify all of their information, that it's correct and matches. They will then sign the card. There's a space here on the bottom. You will initial next to their name in the voter roll. That way you have two records that they appear before you and requested to vote. Once the VAT card is verified and filled out, you'll put it in the back of the file. That's how you'll handle checking in each individual voter. And we'll go over this again. This is, it's also all kind of step by step. There's details in your book that describe all this. Should a voter come in and have a correction to the information, maybe their name was misspelled or some other piece of information was slightly incorrect, you'll have these pieces of paper. These are obviously our little handmade jobs, but they'll fill out the correct information, sign it, and it'll get attached to the VAT card that's in there. just so that there's then a record. You can also make a note on the voter roll, corrected information submitted or something like that. Should a voter come in and say, I'm here to vote, you can't find them in the voter roll or the VAT card. First things first, chances are they're at the wrong polling place. That's usually an easy fix. Street index is in here, so you check their address against the street index, and that'll tell you if they should be somewhere else. It is possible that, although in this day and age, this would be pretty unlikely to happen because with everything being electronic, it all goes pretty quickly. It's possible that they submitted their voter registration, but it didn't quite get to the roll. In that case, you would call, and I know I'm going very quickly, but again, we will go over this again, and all the information is in here. You would call the County Board of Elections and say, hey, I have John Smith here. He says he voted or registered to vote before the deadline, and then they can check against the state roll and say either we have not received his voter registration or it was not received by the deadline. And if that's the case, if they don't appear and the county cannot verify their status, they cannot vote. Sometimes the county will say, yes, we do have them here. They, did the motor voter registration. There was a glitch in the system and we didn't get it. And in that case, again, one of these forms would be filled out so that they're then certified to vote. So once everything checks out, and 99.9% of them are going to be in the voter roll and a VAT card, it's all going to go very smoothly. Once that happens, then you hand them their ballot, and there will be a station set up where we have little partitions so someone casts their ballot in privacy, and then there is a ballot box. Those are separated. So you would have one for District 3 and one for District 4, and they place them in the box, and that's it. History tells us that, unless we have a slew of write-in candidates, we have 2 candidates for District 3. It will be probably relatively slow voting day. I'm just going by my experience and having done this a time or two. But District 3 polling place, which is St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and this is the first year for that, will be open. You will probably have voters from District 4 who come in because it's a town election day. And in that case, you may have to turn people away explaining there's no one running in District 4. This is not an election year for that district, but also that the mayor is unopposed. Again, unless there is a write-in, in which case then the ballots would be prepared accordingly.
And then we would all be at St. Paul's.
Yes. In this instance, because again, unless there's a write-in, the possibility exists that Buckingham for Districts 1 and 2 will be open for voting that day if there is a write-in before the deadline, which is a week out from the election. So, going on the presumption that will not be the case. That's kind of it. I know that's kind of quick and it goes through. It's not a particularly complicated process. It's mostly just matching things and making sure that the person gets the correct ballot. Assuming no one files for write-in for mayor, the only ballot that you will have at St. Paul will be for the District 3 voters, so there's no confusion. If a person is not registered in District 3, then they won't receive a ballot. Sorry, I did miss one point in going over the register and the VAT card. If you look on the VAT card, and this may change, so don't hold me to it, but you will have a guide for this. Up here at the top, it says district and precinct. That should match our district number, the very last digit. On the one that you have in your hand, it's District 2. So that should mean that voter is on District 3. Now, it is possible that number, once the whole thing is pulled together, that number may not be correct. But we'll have that information for you that day. But then down at the bottom, there is something that is called a ballot style. And in your book somewhere, there will be a memo to you, the board, correlating District 3 is ballot style 2, or whatever. Hopefully it works out that District 2 is ballot style 2, but sometimes it doesn't. They've explained it to me. It's something about the way that the data is correlated. I don't quite get it, but there it is. But we will give you information for that in case there's a difference. If it's super simple, there it is. But if the district number and the ballot style number aren't exactly the same, we will definitely let you know. And that also helps you, so that if that voter from District 4 comes in, there's no confusion. Oh, okay, well, you're a District 4 voter, you don't have a ballot tonight, so.
I noticed that both candidates have ballot watchers.
Poll watchers, yes,
Poll
yes,
watchers, thank you.
yes.
And so, do they just hang out?
They can,
Okay.
yes. There are specific rules regarding poll watching, and I will actually, let's see, maybe I can find it quickly. In the book, poll watchers, excuse me, yes, it is page 5 of section 1. So essentially the rule with poll watchers is they are permitted to be in the room during election day. They can, excuse me, my goodness, I got the burps. They cannot interact with voters. They cannot interact with the judges. And by interact, I mean they can't hang over your shoulder. They're just there to make sure that nothing, that you're not
We're not throwing
registering someone as this and then reaching under the table, that sort of thing. But they're not there to interfere, they're just there to observe. You have the right as the board members that if you feel that a poll watcher is behaving in a manner unacceptable, that you can have them removed. You have that authority. The other thing to kind of be cognizant of is, and you won't be aware of this because you'll be inside the building, but you may have someone come in and say, hey, so-and-so's parked their car outside and they've got a big sign where you can't have you can't have electioneering information or propaganda within so many feet. And there will be signage directing people, no campaigning beyond this point. Again, that's a case where you have the right to then say to that person, you must remove your vehicle, or you must take your button off or your hat off. Not that I expect these things in a relatively small and mostly uncontested election like this. You don't tend to see a lot of that kind of election campaign paraphernalia. But
Okay, so you're saying that the actual candidate cannot be within?
the candidate can, yes,
Oh, okay.
but they can't walk around waving a flag that says, vote for Joe. They can't wear a button on their shirt that says vote for Joe. They can put a jacket over it, that sort of thing. But the candidate themselves, yes, can't stand outside the door going, hey, I'm so-and-so, vote for me. They can't do that. They can stand on the other side of the sign that says no campaigning beyond this point and do that. But, yeah. And of course, obviously, when I say you have the authority as the election board, I do mean that. You do have the authority. But of course, at any point, you could call Kate or I, or if it feels relevant, the police department. Per the town code, the police department functions sort of as the, there's a term, sergeant at arms for town elections, so, yeah. As far as election day itself, and again, we'll go over this more, Kate and I will be here 6:30 at the latest. We'll meet you, again, I'm going on the assumption we will only have the one polling place. We will meet you there. It doesn't take terribly long to set up, so usually 6:30, 6:45 is probably fine. We do need to be ready to go at 7 o'clock. The doors open and the voters can begin voting at that point. We'll have more materials with us at the next meeting so that you'll see what you'll be working with that day. Polls are open until the last voter in line at 7 o'clock p.m. has voted. The police department will typically come by at 7, and they will sort of form the end of that line to let people know that they can't join the line. Once that last voter has voted, we'll gather everything up and return here to town hall to actually tally the votes.
I'm sorry, yes. You're saying it's not going to take long to set up the books or the stations?
The stations, all of it. You'll sort of have your working station set up with the book and the back cards, and it can be, more than one person. You can have one person checking the book, one person pulling the card, the next person handing them the ballots. However that ends up working. And then you'll have if, for instance, just if this were the room, you might be set up on this side of the table and the ballot boxes would be on that table. Enough that there's privacy for the voter, but that it can be fully observed, what's happening, that they're not pulling things out of their pockets and doing that. Although we do use secured photocopy proof, markup proof paper, so. Trying to think what else. Should you have a point where the ballots there's too many ballots in the box, nobody can get anything else in, you will have keys. 2 election personnel observe, 1 opens, you can just tamp them down, or if you need to, you can remove them and put them in a manila envelope that gets sealed. The important thing there is, should you have to take those kinds of actions, basically where you open the ballot box before the close of polls, it needs to be observed by 2 of you, just to make sure that it's all above board.
And just to confirm, we reviewed at the last meeting, but the county board of elections will have somebody on call on the day of
Yes.
the election up until 7 o'clock in case there are any discrepancies with
Yes.
the information.
Like I say, these
You'll have
days,
number to call.
these days the likelihood of, because everything is all electronic, the cutoff was Friday
It was.
for voter registration, which is why they're able to give us the roll today. Back in the day, and I've been doing this for a while, it took a little while to get these because it was all paper and it was all a person having to take a voter registration card and then key that information in. So everything moves pretty quickly. The likelihood of someone coming in and saying, well, I registered to vote by that date and it not being on the roll is really pretty slim. There's always room for human error, Maybe they went online, filled out the form, but just didn't hit submit at the end. These things happen. But at the end of the day, if the county says they are or are not on the roll, that's, they have the final word on that. Again, the only time I ever had a person come to me saying that they had registered was a new family that moved into town and they registered at the DMV. And at that point, things were still pretty much paper, and it's unfortunate that, if it's not on the roll, we don't have any way of addressing it. I do know that the state, federal, county, I'm not sure about county, but the larger elections have the capability of registering voters the same day. We really don't have that capability because we are dealing with the state voter roll. We don't maintain our own voter roll. We are dealing with the state voter roll, and we just don't have the capability of getting someone in the system and vetted, to be able to vote. It's unfortunate. Maybe someday we'll be there, but right now, unfortunately, we cannot offer that option. We can have cards on hand so that they can get registered, but we won't be able to allow them to vote that day. Actually, I'll make a note of that, to have the, it's so easy to do it online these days. But
So someone's already been to St. Paul's and they know the locations already, everything's going to be set up.
when we made the change of the polling place from the police department to St. Paul United Methodist, those voters should have gotten I can't say would because we didn't do it, but they should have gotten a new voter card that told them where their polling place was.
Physically in the building.
Oh, yes, there will be signs that say vote here, right in front of the door.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
once you're inside,
It's right there. It's from the outside to the room is right
It's the
there.
educational building,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
there.
Yes, if it was a more complicated building, we might have additional signage, but it
There'll be
literally,
signs
you walk through the
that
door
door.
and it's right there.
Not the actual church door, but the
Yes.
it's
Where you go in.
educational building.
Where you go in to get the
Refreshments
barbecue?
and all.
The door that's closest to Flower Street, yeah, and we'll have signs there that direct people. We make sure that folks know where to go. Yeah, if it was like a school where you had to go down different corridors and whatever, that might be different, but this is really very straightforward. I can't think of anything else. It seems like a lot, and I have a tendency to be a worst-case scenario person, so I've probably given you a lot more information than you'll ever need, but once you do one or two of them in the morning, it's very simple, it really is simple.
And you laid out in the book, you did,
Yeah.
you did a great
Yeah.
job, you know.
Yeah.
And can we bring like coffee?
Oh, absolutely, because you are there for the day. You cannot leave unless obviously there's an emergency, but yes, bring whatever you like. You can have people bring you, food. You can call Papa John's, get delivery, however you choose to do that. But,
In other
yeah.
words, the town's not going to provide you with lunch.
We did up the stipend a few years ago, so that, that covers that. And there is a stipend that's involved. I'll have to make sure, actually, that I have your information for our financial system, so you get your checks. That just occurred to me. Everybody else should already be in there because they worked the last election, but I'll need to make sure that both of you get into that system. Obviously, any questions you may come up with. In the meantime, we will probably have new information for you to pull things out of your books, and please bring these to the next meeting. We'll add do you have yours? Did you bring it back here at some point? I think you may have. If we have an extra,
I can get another one.
okay, yeah. We'll make sure you have one.
Okay.
Miss Tustin was the one that brought it.
Okay, I knew someone had dropped it off, but I couldn't quite remember. Yeah, read through the book. Any questions, please give us a call. It should go fairly smoothly,
This is another crash course at the end of the
Yeah, another crash
the-
course,
yeah,
but yeah.
on the 24th.
But we do, as staff, obviously, we try to limit our proximity to the polling place on the day. It's just a matter of protocols and ethics, and don't want to raise any questions, but obviously, we are available. We probably will pop in a couple of times just to make sure that, you haven't run out of ballots, had a mad rush, and that kind of thing, so. And of course, in between now and then, let us know if there are any questions, and we'll give you a reminder of the next meeting before it comes up.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, that's all we have for our meeting this evening.
All
Do we
right.
have a motion to adjourn?
I'm going to motion for you there, please.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.